Manchester United is set for a key meeting this week regarding Matheus Cunha. United have made contact with River Plate for Franco Mastantuono. What's the latest there? Fabrizio Romano confirms interest in Viktor Gyokeres. Ruben Amorim has his say on transfer targets. And Amad Diallo is back, baby. This is all your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Welcome to the channel. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video. And let's jump straight into it. So firstly, give us your thought, how you're feeling ahead of tonight's game. I am proper nervous already, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm off work, thankfully, today, so I can just keep myself busy and keep myself distracted so I don't have to think too much about it until obviously the before the game and the team news and everything like that kind of comes out as well. But I am proper nervous already ahead of tonight's game. But let us know how you're feeling in the comments below. Now, there's been a really positive injury boost regarding the match today. So Amad Diallo and Matheus de Ligt are both back in full first team training. There's videos and photos and everything like that of them in first team training. Ruben Amorim, though, has confirmed that they are not going to start. They're not fit enough to start, but potentially could make the squad, which is massively encouraging. So Amad and Mata are not fit enough to start, but they can be in the squad. This was in his press conference last night ahead of the game today. So that's a massive boost. Maybe not for tonight's game, but also for the return leg as well, to have Amad and de Ligt back. Obviously Amad's the main one kind of coming back because our forward line is inept, and Amad Diallo is that one kind of bright spot, or has been that one kind of bright spot up front this season. He's been a massive miss over the last few months, but also de Ligt. I think de Ligt's been outstanding this season as well, so to have him back as well is really encouraging. So let's just hope we're in the tie and we can take something back to Old Trafford for the return leg. And then if we've got Amad and de Ligt, maybe they'll get some minutes at the weekend. Maybe they'll have some minutes tonight, who knows, but that's massively encouraging. So finally a bit of good news regarding injuries and players returning as well, which is positive. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Now let's go through the transfer news. So Manchester United are ready to exercise the buyout clause in Franco Mastantuono's release at River Plate, but would like to pay it in instalments. Among the growing list of suitors, there are two who have taken a step in the negotiations and spoken to River directly, Marseille and Manchester United. Now, this report's come from a South American news outlet. I'll show it on screen in a second. They've got 4.9 million followers, so I'm going to assume that they're fairly credible and fairly decent with that amount of kind of following, suggesting that we're prepared to pay the buyout clause, but we want to do it in installments, which is fair enough, but also that we have taken a step in negotiations along with Marseille, so that means that we've been in direct contact with River Plate. The report also goes on to say that they were both present recently in Argentina and took the opportunity to speak with River Plate sporting director Enzo Franscoli. The problem is that Franco is not given any encouragement and has made it clear that he is waiting for Real Madrid first. This is the message he has sent to all the European clubs interested in him. Now, again, that came from a South American news outlet with a very, very large following, suggesting that United have held talks and are prepared to pay Franco Mastantuono's release clause. Give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. And it's interesting as well that they were saying that Franco would prioritise Real Madrid, because if you remember yesterday's video, Fabrizio Romano had the following to say, that he said Manchester United and Chelsea are interested in Franco Mastantuono and well informed on his situation. Real Madrid are not pursuing him at the current deal conditions. It's an open race. So Romano suggesting that Real Madrid are not actually in the race for Franco Mastantuono under the current deal, so i.e. they don't want to pay his release clause. And this feels very much like, for me, the Lenny Yoro situation. There's a very talented young player that was believed and reported to want to go to Real Madrid, and United just went in and massively aggressively went for the Euro. If you remember when we actually signed him, the reports were from Romano and everyone that United just went in massively aggressive on that kind of deal and managed to get it kind of done and dusted. And this kind of feels a little bit similar with the kind of report, if the report is to be believed, from the South American report before as well. So that's massively encouraging. I still have doubts because these are the sort of players that we always seem to miss out on, but there's no smoke without fire. There's been another kind of South American journalist, though, as well, who's fairly decent, saying that Franco Mastantuono wants to wait for Real Madrid. He is not desperate to leave River Plate and will wait for Madrid until the last moment. Manchester United have had 2 meetings for him, but don't want to pay the €40 million release clause. So whether they means doesn't want to pay it in full, or whether we'll try and negotiate that down. That's obvious anyway with negotiation tactics on transfers. You will try and say, look, will you take a little bit less, maybe with some bonuses or whatever regarding that as well. But that's really interesting as well. So again, there's no smoke without fire regarding the situation. I still would want to see a little bit more, like an Ornstein or Laurie Whitwell or maybe Romano give more of an update regarding the situation regarding Mastantuono. But 2 reports suggesting that we've held meetings with River Plate, which does kind of indicate that there is interest there as well. Whether we'll get the deal done or not, because obviously Romano was saying Chelsea are interested because they need wingers. So that's really kind of encouraging, I think, as well. So this is one to definitely pay attention to. We'll just need to see how it kind of plays out. But give us your thoughts on Mastantuono in the comments. Be interesting to read what you've got to say regarding that. Regarding that later. Now, Fabrizio Romano has also kind of confirmed that the interest in Gyokeres is genuine as well. So Manchester United and Arsenal still remain keen on Viktor Gyokeres. The budget will be crucial for Manchester United to understand how much to spend on a striker. So if you watched yesterday's video, the reports were that, it came from Footy Insider, who are not the most credible source, but Florian Plettenberg was saying that we've held talks with Gyokeres, and then Christopher Michael was saying that there's kind of interest still there as well. But now Romano kind of confirming it as well is really interesting. So again, that could be one that depends on Champions League and Champions League money and budget and stuff as well. But that's really interesting because Gyokeres would be my number 1 striker option out of all the players that we've been linked with for various reasons. But yeah, again, we're going to need to see how that one kind of plays out and see what Gyokeres' priorities are. Because it's believed he wants to go to a club that's maybe in a more stable position. Maybe he is prioritizing Champions League football ahead of anything else. But Amorim's had his something to say on that in a second, which we're going to run through. But yeah, give us your thoughts on Gyokeres. Now, the main striker, though, that we are linked with that's seen as the number 1 choice is Liam Delap. Graham Bailey has said that Chelsea are currently leading the race to sign Manchester United transfer target Liam Delap, and the Blues believe the law of being the first choice number 9 will help them land him, which is weird because Nicholas Jackson's at Chelsea and we've got Rasmus Højlund, so it's weird that Graham Bailey would think that, or that Delap would think, well, I've got a better chance of being the top choice number 9 at Chelsea than I have at Manchester United. But it's Graham Bailey. It's a hit and miss journalist as well. But there's loads of reports, some saying that Chelsea are leading the race. There's belief that United are confident they could get this deal done as well. But it's a little bit up in the air regarding the situation because effectively Romano was saying it's a 2-horse race. Effectively, it's between us and Chelsea. At the moment, that could change, but at the time of recording this video, that's the kind of belief. But so we need to kind of wait and see what happens there. Now, Sean Connolly and Ben Jacobs did a podcast saying that Liam Delap wants European football and is prepared to wait for as long as possible to determine the standings of all of his suitors before making a decision. Now, again, I've mentioned that in yesterday's video. It's a bit of a red flag for me that Liam Delap, Gyokeres, I could understand because of his age and his kind of status in football. But, on the flip side of that, we signed Ibrahimovic, Pogba, Cavani. We've signed plenty of players without Champions League football as well. So, it's not necessarily the be-all or end-all for some players. For some players, obviously, it might be more important than where they're actually playing football. But, it seems a little bit odd to me. But especially for Delap, who's 22, look, he's got his whole kind of career ahead of him still as well, and has had really his first breakout season in the Premier League to be demanding kind of European football and Champions League football. But it could just be media bollocks that. It could just be total BS from the media where they're trying to paint him in a bit of a bad light because he's linked with Manchester United. So there could be we've got a I couldn't rule that out as well. But Ruben Amorim has had his say on players prioritising Champions League football ahead of United. In an interview with a Portuguese TV outlet, he said, I didn't talk to Victor, But if a player wants to join Manchester United to play Champions League, then that player will not come to United. We want players who want to represent United and not players who want to play only certain competitions. So Ruben Amorim kind of showing his stance on what he feels about players prioritising Champions League football ahead of coming to United because it's United. And I wholeheartedly agree with Ruben Amorim's stance on that as well. If any players are kind of like, well, I don't want to give you a decision yet because I'm not sure about Champions League football, then I don't think they're the right players that we should be signing anyway, personally. So I don't know if that's a warning from Amorim to say, look, if you don't want to come, don't freaking come, because we're not interested in you. If you're only going to come if we're in Champions League football, and I like that kind of mentality, because then you're only going to get players that come for the right reasons. Look at someone like Matheus Cunha, took a pay cut to come to United, and his performances on the pitch, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He gives his all to kind of come in. He waited for Man United as well. Again, gives his all on the pitch as well. We need more players like that have that kind of, they just want to come because it's United, not necessarily just because of the competitions that we're playing. And especially in Premier League as well, because there's hardly any teams that are 100% guaranteed Champions League football, because the top four is always kind of flipping and reversing and changing. And there's, teams that all have bad seasons and good seasons. So it's not guaranteed really for any team in the Premier League to be in the Champions League. So I do think it's a little bit odd for players to prioritise that. But it's their careers. I'm not here to judge players what they want to do in their careers. It's completely up to them what they want to prioritise or not. But I like Ruben Amorim's stance on that. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. So what happens then if we don't get Liam Delap? Then another target that's come out is Patrik Schick. So Manchester United could turn their attention towards attempting to sign Bayern Leverkusen star Patrik Schick if it becomes clear that they are facing an uphill battle to lure Ipswich Town marksman Liam Delap to Old Trafford during the summer transfer window. Give me sports sources have revealed. Manchester United have identified Schick as an attainable alternative to Delap, according to Give Me Sports sources. Manchester United are viewing Schick as a budget-friendly solution if they cannot come out on top in the race for Delap. So Danny Rust and Dean Jones, who are decent sources, suggesting that if we do not get Liam Delap, then potentially Patrik Schick could be the alternative or the player that we would go for. I would kind of maybe say Mateta might be one in there as well. Now, this would obviously depend on Champions League, because if we do get Champions League budget, maybe we could go for a more expensive striker, but more expensive doesn't necessarily mean better. I just hope they're recruiting players for the profiling of players, rather than who's the best name around there and who's going to cost the most money, because that's what's caused us this problem that we're in at the moment anyway, signing names above profiles. So I just hope that if they are going for players, they are the right profile. Obviously Mateta does have very similar traits to Liam Delap, and I think Patrik Schick is a similar style of striker as well. He's a kind of, so that would kind of make sense. And there was a report before as well from, I think it was a fairly decent German journalist, was it Patrick Berger, was saying that we've held contact, or contact's been made with Patrik Schick as well. So that's maybe one to keep an eye on, or one to put on the list of alternative options should we not get the Delap deal done, or Gyokeres, or whoever. I mean, maybe Patrik Schick is on the kind of list of backup options as well. But it's nice to know that we maybe have some backups. We'll all have different thoughts on who that backup should be, or whether they're good, or whether they should be on the kind of list. But I would maybe say Patrik Schick is on that kind of list of potential alternatives should we not get the Liam Delap deal done. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Now, one player that does want to sign regardless of Champions League football by all accounts is Matheus Cunha. So Sean Conley and Ben Jacobs did a podcast, and they had the following say regarding the Cunha deal. Now, Ben Jacobs has actually been fairly credible regarding the Cunha news. Has been kind of breaking it, and is actually kind of probably leading the kind of race in terms of bringing the news out regarding Cunha. So he's had the following to say: another key meeting between Cunha's entourage and Manchester United will happen this week. Manchester United will try and verbally agree terms with Matheus Cunha and then proceed with an offer to Wolves. He did say that they're having meetings via Zoom, but then they also said that Matheus Cunha has bought into the vision of Ineos's project and the idea of playing under one of Europe's top coaches. In the last 48 hours, Cunha and Manchester United had a meeting, but currently no formal offer has been put forward by the club. This could change in the coming days. So, Ben Jacobs, who has been kind of really decent when it's come to the Matheus Cunha situation, suggesting meetings are going to be held once we kind of agree personal terms. Then then obviously we'll pursue with the formal offer towards Wolves or for Wolves. And then they also said that Manchester United are not waiting for outgoings or whether they are successful for Liam Delap. They want Cunha over the line as soon as possible, so they're pushing ahead to get this deal done. And this might be a catalyst that actually maybe other players will look at it and say, well, hold on, United have signed Cunha. Would I want to play with Matheus Cunha? So that could be a deal maker for other deals as well that want to maybe come in and think, well, actually, if we've got the pool to go and get, one of the top players in the Premier League without Champions League, maybe that will kind of be, a catalyst to other deals potentially as well. But that's really encouraging. So more meetings, and apparently this is one that I'm kind of fairly confident is gonna go through. By all the kind of credible sources out there are suggesting that this is, not done, but it is going to be done. Matheus Cunha to United, and obviously Ben Jacobs has been quite good at leading the kind of putting his eggs in the Matheus Cunha basket as well. So credit to him for that as well, suggesting, meetings this week, and we could even get a deal done, verbally with Cunha, and then obviously we need to just work out how, because the belief is we're going to pay his release clause in full, but we're just going to do it in installments, and it's just a case of working out what installments Wolves want regarding that as well. So that's encouraging. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Now let's go through the rest of the news. So Manchester United are actively considering signing Jonathan Tah on a free transfer this summer. Now that would be interesting. Oddly, I looked at his stats. He's in the bottom 1% for tackles in the top 5 leagues, but I actually think he's a good defender. So how does that work? But on a free transfer, someone with experience to come in, he's played in the back 3 as well. I wouldn't be dead against doing that. The reports where I was watching Romano's video, and I can't remember what he had to say regarding Tah, because we weren't kind of linked with them at the time, but I'm pretty sure he was saying Barcelona were always seen as contenders for Tah, but they might not be going for him now because of the defenders that they've already got in the squad. There is still interest from Bayern Munich. So we need to kind of wait and see what kind of happens regarding that one as well. But on a free transfer, someone with a bit of experience to maybe be like a Lindelof and Johnny Evans replacement, I wouldn't be dead against it. Plays in the back 3 as well, so would know the kind of system. So yeah, wouldn't necessarily be against doing that on a free transfer. But give us your thoughts. I'm sure you will in the comments below on Jonathan Tah. Good option, bad option? Let me know in the comments below. Now, one player that we are very, very close to signing is Enzo Kana-Biyik. So the reports are that Kana-Biyik will travel to Manchester today to sign a contract with Manchester United. This came out yesterday, so that means that he's potentially already in Manchester today. I didn't know the credibility of that kind of French reporter, but Steve Railston is very good with the United youth, has confirmed exactly the same thing. So Kana-Biyik is travelling to Manchester to finalise his transfer to Manchester United. So this is a young player that's effectively going to be signing because he's out of contract, so we can do this deal. Now the reports are that we might loan him back to Lausanne, or loan him to Lausanne. One of Ineos's other clubs as a way to kind of help his development, but who knows yet? Maybe he comes into the youth team and the reserves, and he is somebody that we kind of, develop ourselves, but very, very highly regarded. I don't know too much about him other than that as well, but it's another kind of, Christopher Veld signing, isn't it? This going for these kind of young, very talented players that are out of contract, opportunities. Did the same with Aiden Heaven. Obviously, Sekou Kone was one that cost like less than £1 million, or £1 million was it? I think very highly regarded. Chido Obi, it just kind of shows that they are going to keep doing these sort of deals for these young players as well, which I think is massively encouraging. It's a step in the right direction for me personally. Now, player I mentioned there, Kone, from one Kone to another. So Manchester United and Liverpool are tracking Stade de Reims midfielder Amadou Kone. He is valued at in the £20 million price bracket. That came from Peter O'Rourke, though, who I would say take with a pinch of salt, not the most credible source. I'd want to see a bit more credibility personally regarding this. Looks a really interesting profile of player, though. Young, left-footed, oddly, he's from Mali as well, just like Sekou Kone that we've got. Very, very good defensive output. He is a kind of Ugarte clone, I would say, like that type of kind of midfielder. Very good tackles, interception clearances, quite good successful take-ons as well. Very similar in terms of Ugarte, so he would be like more of a holding midfielder, rather than like a number. It's a 6, not an 8, going off the kind of data there as well. But I'd want to see a bit more credibility regarding that. But that would be something that is plausible considering, the type of profile of players we're going for. These are the sort of ones that Christopher Vervel would be all over these types of deals. So it's an interesting one. I'd want to wait for a bit more credibility, though. So I'll bring you any updates if anything comes out regarding that. Let's quickly go through some exit news. So Marcus Rashford does not want to join Aston Villa. He wants to join Barcelona and is willing to take a pay cut to seal the move. That came from Disco Mirror. Peter Hall said that Barcelona are ready to move for Marcus Rashford and are unwilling to pay £40 million, which is interesting. Whether we could do a deal with Barcelona maybe for less, but then we don't have to pay Rashford out, because the belief is that if he goes to Villa for 40 million, we might have to pay like 20 million of that to pay off his wages or give it to Rashford in order for him to take a pay cut to go to Villa. But I think Barcelona would be able to pay more wages than Villa, so whether they'll do a deal where it's less than 40 million, but we don't have to pay Marcus Rashford, who knows? It could be, that's plausible, I would say. And then Sean Conley and Ben Jacobs said that Manchester United are confident they can acquire £40 million from Aston Villa for Marcus Rashford. So Rashford's future still in the air. He is injured, potentially out for the rest of the season now, which I don't necessarily think has an impact on his transfer. Obviously, if he's injured all summer, then that would be a massive blow, because he can't sell him if he's injured. But I don't think teams at the moment are scouting players. Like, if you don't know that you want to sign Marcus Rashford and like 3 or 4 Premier League games would make your mind up, I think that's, then clearly you haven't been doing your scout. This isn't the time teams scout players. This is the time that they've already done their due diligence, and scouting are actually in negotiations and working out cost and budgets and stuff. I don't think necessarily is the time now to be scouting players, because effectively, like some Premier League games are just effectively nothing games, because teams have got nothing to play for anymore, because relegation's sorted, the top's done. Yes, there's teams competing maybe for Europe, but that kind of middle table where we are, no one's got anything to play for anymore, so they're effectively dead games. So I don't think him being injured for the rest of the season will necessarily have an impact on his transfer. But we need to see. The belief is that he wants to go to Barcelona, and if Barcelona are interested, maybe there's a deal to be done there. But if Villa also want to take him, and he wants to go to Villa, then fair enough. It is what it is. We'll just need to wait and see what happens regarding that one. And then keeping with Sean Conley and Ben Jacobs, they also said an exit for Alejandro Garnacho this summer is possible. Manchester United would want 75 million euros for him. Napoli and Chelsea remain interested in his services. And that seems like a bit more of a better transfer fee for Alejandro Garnacho. Remember, the reports were like 35 to 40 million euros and stuff like that as well. There's about 64 million pounds, because we're getting quoted like 100 million for Tyler Dibbling and stuff, and 70 million for Semenyo and all these types of players, and yet we're expected to sell Garnacho for like 40, which is ridiculous in my opinion. So I do think that that's probably a bit more of a realistic fee for Garnacho, especially to Chelsea. We shouldn't be selling him to Chelsea anyway, but we definitely shouldn't be selling him to Chelsea on the cheap. Whether Napoli would have that budget, we'll have to kind of wait and see how that kind of develops. But, it's still one where, the Garnacho situation is still up in the air, isn't it? Especially if we're going to be getting Cunha. And does that kind of affect Garnacho's kind of decision-making as well? If he's like, well, actually, if I'm going to get maybe limited game times, maybe I do want to go somewhere to be a number one. That can be ruled out as well. But we need to keep an eye on it for you and see how it kind of plays out in the summer. But give us your thoughts in the comments below. Give us your thoughts on all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Come on, United. See you in the next one.